What if you already know enough? The most obvious danger of consuming too much is that it turns you into a consumer. A lot of that free and paid content out there is designed to turn you into someone else's consumer. And it's not free BTW. Not unless you put zero value on the time it took to consume that free content. You probably knew this, right? But here's something I've noticed from PMs with a couple of thousand forum members. Many of you don't think you know enough to get started. Many of you are constantly looking for something else to consume so you can finally become a producer. I think the more insidious, hidden, danger of consuming is that it makes you think you don't already know enough to start. I always imagine a young lad knocking on the door with a lawnmower in tow. "Hey mister. Do you need your grass cut? Not today thanks. No thanks. Maybe another time. Oh wow. I was just thinking of finding someone to cut my grass. Yes please. I live in a very polite little world." You know what that lad didn't do? He didn't think, I better get a logo. I better get a website. I don't know enough about cold calling. I better go to the library and get a heap of books on how to start a business. Here in this forum we'd call any of the above action faking. Many of us know to give ourselves a stern talking to when we catch ourselves action faking. But did you know the hidden rabbit hole lying in wait for you in the library? Oh boy. I didn't realize I needed to know about marketing as well as just starting a business. Uh-oh. I didn't know I needed to create avatars of my ideal customers before I go knocking on doors. What if I go round the wrong estate? USP. Whoa. I'm glad I came into the library today. I wouldn't have known that I didn't know about USPs. Scaling? Growth? What's that mean? Should I even try to start a grass cutting business? OMG. Look at all this stuff I didn't know I needed to learn before I even step out of the house and speak to people this fine Saturday afternoon. Many of you are straight out of school or college. You've been taught to consume and read your way out of problems. Whenever a new challenge comes up, you've been programmed to search for a book or course. This is how deep the script has its claws in you. And the further you got into the education system, the deeper those claws. I get it. I was a good student. I got my degree. I worked a cubicle for nearly 2 decades. I took the courses. I Googled for books on XYZ. I took evening classes on ABC. I even decided I needed an MSc to get ahead. I learned slowly that the lad with the lawnmower who may very well have dropped out of school was street smart where I was book smart. And that he was streets ahead of me. Then one day someone asked me a very simple question, Andy, what if you already know enough? Oh, we all want to join Team Producer, right? The best way is to produce more, not consume more. What if you already know enough? P.S. This was all produced on my phone on a coach to the airport. P.P.S. I could have consumed a podcast for the hour, or I could have produced a post in that hour. I chose to gain clarity by producing, to help others by producing, and to not clutter up my head with yet more knowledge. I chose to clear my head, not fill it. Andy, absolutely true. Thanks. Maybe to add, if you really need special knowledge, read into it as soon as you need it, and only into it. 100%. As MJ says, the best book is the one that solves the problem right in front of you. I'm not knocking reading books, listening to podcasts, or taking courses. Just be aware that time spent consuming is time not spent producing. And that you can waste more than just the time initially spent consuming. What if it took you down a rabbit hole for days, weeks, months, or even years? What about the opportunity cost of not producing today? Again, this is where my anxiety comes in handy. And by the way, I've made a couple of dollars in my life, and guess what? I've never had one logo. I made more money today than a lot of people make in a week just in my washer and dryer business, and guess what? No logo. Do you know what the Maids or Merry Maids logo is? No? Well, that sucks, because they spent a lot of money marketing that logo. So do you think if you don't know their logo, people will know what your logo is when you only spend $1,000 marketing it? Get real. Personally, when I do need information about starting a business, I won't sleep until I get that information. Then I absorb it while I sleep, and then I get the ball rolling as soon as possible. If you've waited a year to start, either get started by the first of the month or quit fooling yourself. Better do today or even instantly as you read this. Put everything else aside. There has been some research on this. If you don't start within 72 hours from your decision to start, the probability that you'll ever start drops radically, I believe even below 1%. Great post, Andy. One of the better analogies I've heard about this is imagining your knowledge destination is a wall. Every book you read or podcast you listen to gets you halfway closer. After a few you are pretty close, but no matter how much you read or study, so, as you said above, reach that point of knowing enough and go do something with it. That point comes quicker than you think. I disagree. The root cause of trouble in business is failure to gain facts, incontrovertible and unshakable facts. I buy $900 industry market research reports and read everything I can about a client's business, so when I go into a meeting I have the facts. This is no lazy man's field. To piggyback off of this, my favorite method is to learn through production. I'm transitioning from physicist into a machine learning engineer, because I'm solidly in the camp of code it yourself if you can. So what's my process for learning this new field? Example, I wanted to learn to program a deep reinforcement learning algorithm called deep Q-learning. In a nutshell, it's a way for agents learn to play video games. These algorithms have applications far beyond trivial video games, but games are the most accessible to the new learner without access to Uber or DoorDash levels of data. So how could I learn this? Option 1: watch someone else's video tutorial, blindly copy the code line for line without really thinking too deeply. Option 2: read some material on how the algorithm works, translate that into code, and turn it into a YouTube video series to teach others. Option 1 would have gotten me functional code to play with, but if I wouldn't really know the behind it. When I decide I want to learn something else, I would have to watch more videos and spend the same amount of time because I haven't learned anything that I can generalize. Option 2 means that I have to struggle almost 16 hours of coding, testing, debugging to build something from scratch. At the end of that, I have to go through line by line and be able to justify it to an audience. Then spend a few hours recording, editing, and uploading. So it takes 20 hours when I could have just spent a few watching someone else's content. I have to endure pain of feeling stupid and inadequate, ride the wave of feelings from excitement, anxiety, despair, and ultimately triumph and pride. This is in contrast to the purely pleasurable feelings you get from consuming someone's content. This is not an easy path to choose, but the end result is that I understand the topic inside and out. It means that when I want to learn the next topic I can leverage my slightly deeper understanding to repeated iterations of option 2 result in this allows one to arrive at a state of deep domain expertise in difficult things. This is the difference between what Kung Fu Steve would call Tier 1, and Tier 3 gurus. The Tier 1 gurus understand the why, because they have taken concepts from their brain into production. Knowing the why and not just the how allows them to generate to sell to the Tier 3 gurus. The Tier 3 gurus gobble it up and then wonder how the Tier 1 guys come up with this stuff. Never stopping to think that perhaps they should step back and look at first principles. It's also the reason why Bioface can go from one e-com success to another. as if he's blessed by some archangel of selling shit online. TL. Doctor, follow Andy's advice and get started learning something by doing or producing. Don't wuss out and read tutorials, really learn how to do it and just take the pain, become the tier 1 guru and then generate new knowledge in your domain. You are correct. I meant, for example, if a guy is going to start a trucking company, he will need to get the equipment. Or if a person is going to start something on the internet, they might have to wait until they get paid to actually put the wheels in motion. But you are 100% correct, get done today what you can and don't put it off. Set a day within the next 30 to launch. If possible, within the next 30 minutes. Or go back to watching Aqua Teen and asking your mom if you can stay out after 10 p.m. Sounds like you're misinterpreting. Nobody on this forum will argue against constant and continued learning. What we do see is people who will spend months or years reading those $900 reports to be ready for the meetings that they've never set. It probably depends who you're selling to or what you're selling. This is an important distinction I hadn't considered. I did catch myself consuming tutorials while trying to get my head around JavaScript. Once I let them go and started trying to build my first project. Then I discovered my only savior is Stack Overflow. True story. A Japanese sensei took me and another enthusiastic beginner aside and asked us if we knew the secret to learning faster. He leant forward and whispered, "Teach." A few observations and much reasoning lead to error, many observations and little reasoning to truth. The atmosphere of libraries, lecture rooms, and laboratories is dangerous to those who shut themselves up in them too long. It separates us from reality like a fog. Alexis Carrel brings to mind how a lot of successful people are dyslexic, so are essentially forced to act and learn to engage with others as a life skill, as opposed to losing themselves in endless reading research. Great thread, launched by our very own Sensei of Service Enterprise, could be distilled to the maxim, learn by doing. Great post. Cannot be more insightful. I do this all the time. Hell, I'm doing it right now. I keep telling myself I'm one step closer to finding that secret sauce to getting started, or that I can just start tomorrow because I'm young and have plenty of time. Stop reading or watching. Start doing. Make it a goal to not consume any new info for a week. Use your current skill sets to take action. Then in a week evaluate whether or not you need more knowledge to execute. If not, then keep executing. If you do, then go learn whatever it is you need and repeat the process. Thanks. This is probably the best way to get off of the knowledge loop. It's like the belt system in martial arts. Beginners are white belts because white means you clean and pure. You have no knowledge but you're starting out. As the belts progress, the colors get dirtier. You have brown belt, then you go to black. Though getting a black belt means you now know all the basics and you go and seek new knowledge of the art. You begin to teach others so that you can plant new seeds and help them grow and mature. Getting a black belt means you have your foundations down and you're now ready to add more. You're always constantly seeking knowledge. It's never ending. If you already know enough, then it's time to put that knowledge into action. From personal experience, I know this to be very true. It also puts a different slant on the saying, those who can, do, those who can't, teach. Thank you for your eye-openers. Yeah? That line sounds like sour grapes from those who can't teach. Perfect. Reminds me of MJ's suggestion that the best book to read is the one that will face the problem I'm facing right now. Thanks. I needed to read that exactly right now. Let's not learn just in case, but just in time. This is basically me for the last month. Trying to launch my first business and doing this all around stuff. I need to remember this topic. Thanks. The truth is you don't know anything you get started. Content knowledge and experience knowledge are not in the same league at all. 10 hours of content knowledge is worth less than 1 hour of experience knowledge. At the same time, if you launch into something big without knowledge, you're going to get wrecked. The solution is to start projects, and then to increase the size or difficulty of the next project, and so on. Gold. Consume less, do more. The best way to learn is practice. Practice brings your pseudo-understandings to the surface. It shines the light on your limitations. That said, learning from others is also important. Learning from books and podcasts or blogs. Has it place? And if so, what is the solution? 1. Have a bias for action. 2. Just-in-time learning. PS. The average CEO reads 60 books a year. Have you heard that before? It might be true. I don't know. What I know is this phrase made me focus on quantity over quality for a while. Beware. Exactly, the average. They read 60 books a year because they're CEO, not the other way around. It's like lately you hear everywhere successful CEOs like Tim Cook get up at 3 a.m. to go to work. Yeah, he wakes up that early because he's the CEO of one of the most valuable companies in the world. He's not Apple's CEO because he wakes up at 3 a.m. every day. You will never know everything there is to know. Damn. I didn't realize I'd written a similar thread a couple of years ago. I often tell my students that if they would only execute the knowledge they already have, they probably wouldn't need to learn anything new for quite a while. Sent from my Samsung SMG 930A using TaperTalk. This is gold. Holy shit, Andy. Great thread. This part really caught my eye. You've been taught to consume and read your way out of problems. You've been programmed whenever a new challenge comes up to instantly go searching for a book or course. I'm definitely guilty of this, though I don't see how this has anything to do with the script, in terms of reading your way out of problems. It does make sense to me in terms of consuming. I think it's a big part of the script. You a degree in business or entrepreneurship before you start a business. You to spend money on a course before you're good enough to help someone. You a piece of paper before you should even compete. Here, get training as part of your package when you come work for us. That training would be thousands if you were to pay for it yourself. Use that additional training to advance your career. Ah, that makes sense. Though I have a question to you, if you are stuck on a problem you need to use a resource to solve it, right? Are you only recommending free solutions like Google to avoid the consumer mentality? Though Google I find is full of rubbish most of the time. Do what you have to do to get over that hurdle. It could well mean paying someone to teach you, do it with you, or do it for you. Okay, thanks. I am struggling to understand it a bit, but I think what you are trying to say is, when you have a problem you don't to go out and buy entire courses or books for that one problem. But sometimes it may require it. Is this right? Here's my opinion. Yes, sometimes you do need to self-educate and get a course or book, but instead of going chapter by chapter you jump straight to your specific problem and just focus on executing it, instead of reading the entire book and revising old concepts and get trapped in the joy of reading, which can feel more pleasurable than actually doing. Good post. I love how you said you could have consumed for 1 hour but you decide to produce. I came back this forum like a week ago to ask my lead gen question, and I was so happy with the value exchange that I've just been going on rampage trying to answer or help on any posts I can. I find that I gain much more clarity through posting than I could ever gain from reading. I end up backspacing my sentences, sitting and questioning myself, asking why am I advising this, or is this the right way to explain this? Or how could I make this more clear? Etc. Same with working, you can read all you want but it's only until you start working that you start going oh. Anyways, yeah, get started ASAP, but also be careful. I got my first SEO client when I didn't know anything. I read for maybe 1 week, and never had an SEO client ever lol. So I put a man's business, a man's livelihood, at risk. It all worked out, but I still kinda feel a little bad for the risk. That's how he feeds his kids, ya know. But when the pressure is on, you kinda learn really fast, so I don't really know what to advise. Just find the balance between I gotta read 3,873,873 books and I'm gonna rearrange this man's business strategy with no knowledge at all. There's a way to ease into these things. Especially with the internet. If you're a new copywriter, you don't have to take up a client right away. You can write 10 sales letters and post them on here to see what we think of them and where we can help. If you do paid ads, you can take $100 to $500 and mess around selling a service in your area. Even if you don't have a service, just make a landing page and put your personal number on it. Then when people call for a plumber, just get their address, then connect them with a good plumber. Or tell them sorry, wrong number, whatever. Or if you have an idea for a product or something, do the same thing. Say you wanna sell slippers that look like dog feet or something. Make a landing page and set up a checkout and everything, complete with your pictures and copy and blah blah. But when they put in CC info and go to buy, it's out of stock, sorry, we'll have them in soon. Basically I'm saying to stop making ginormous plans unless you have experience making or conquering medium plans. And don't make medium plans unless you have experience making or conquering small plans. Whatever big goal you have, there's a small version of it that you can start right now. Wanna open up a carpet cleaning company? Okay, just buy some second-hand cleaning equipment and some carpet tiles from Home Depot, then throw wine and shit on the carpet and start effing around and finding out how shit works, how various type of stains react with the carpet, blah blah. Just spitballing ideas, but you get the point. There's always something you can do right now. Put down the book and pull out a blank piece of paper and be uncomfortable until you come up with an actual, actionable task you can do. Screw theory. Also don't get caught up in planning, that's mental masturbation. To write actionable tasks and do them. Be the boss and employee. Write instructions like a boss and follow them like an employee. That's how I've found to get shit done. Love your posts. I'm guessing you're young. Mid-20s, I've been slaving over a digital marketing plan for 3 months. By 3 months, I mean 10 hours a day minimum, 7 days a week. Yeah, I'd sure like to jump in and get it done. Doesn't work that way. To summarize the work, it included learning how to create world-class printed materials, flyers, etc. Creating logos closely related, mastering photo and publishing software to make custom graphics, creating websites, integrating them with CRM software, creating custom emails, graphic, copywriting, learning SEO, learning keyword research, AdWords, social media, and combining all of this together as a marketing machine, while creating the actual content or message or sales techniques along the way. One side, the methods cannot exist without the other side, the product or service, and they have to mesh together at multiple levels. Oh, and better track it all the while, and do some A or B testing too. I also embed hidden codes in everything so I know what is most effective and thus where to concentrate my resources. I'm not saying I'm good at this. I am acceptable. I am a mere beginner, I'm sure, to many people here in my industry. However, I'm a giant. It's all relative. I'm both a peon and a superhero. The reason I mention all of this is this. There is no way on earth anyone is going to jump into that and learn it as they go. I recently finished my first phase. A phase is I have a product or service and the means to launch it full force. A ton of work. But guess what? Now that it's done, I have cloned it 6 times. It's targeted to 6 distinct audiences, tailored to fit key search words or phrases exactly. Within 24 hours I will modify it to approach a different market, and clone it again 6 times. After the 3rd time, I'm going to focus one segment out of my 6 markets and really work to boost that up. Then the next, etc. Although it took me 3 long agonizing months, actually 6, if consider a work week to be 40 hours, I have now reached the finish line. For the first phase of the relay race. Or the first inning. From here on out, it's divide and conquer. Just wanted to show you a different perspective. It's like learning Chinese. Sure, I can do it, anyone can. But it isn't going to happen within a month or 2. Maybe a good year to have an acceptable level. Not good, but perhaps acceptable at least. Here's one tiny thing, just as an example of what I have to wrestle with. I just found the answer tonight, actually. You can't embed shortcode text into a button that links to a URL. That seems stupid to me, but my tech support says it can't be done. Programmers can figure out things, but they can't think too broadly. This should be an easy function to implement. It would be a great feature for the SaaS crowd out there to figure out. If you don't know what I'm talking about, skip it and consider yourself lucky. It's crap like that which I've been studying for months. This has been the most frustrating thing I've ever done. Certainly the most concentrated. I hope it turns out to be worth it. Now back to work. 27. How do you guess? Hopefully it will be worth it. When I'm saying jump right in, I mean to verify things on a small scale before spending a crazy amount of resources, time, money on an idea. I think some people call it the MVP idea, minimum viable product. You make the smallest feasible prototype of a product or service and try to sell it, and if you can, then you know you can scale it once you actually have a fully fleshed product. I'm just saying I favor action because I see a lot of people planning out things, scrutinizing over every detail, and worrying about problems that they don't yet have. Then they launch and no one buys, and they give up a week later. I'm talking about people new to entrepreneurial stuff. If you're experienced, then go ahead and plan out something big, but I think if you're a noob, you should just stop being afraid of trying to be perfect. You should just get yourself out there and fail. Then once you've been around the block a couple times, try a big product. But if you've never sold anything to anyone or made $1 outside of a job, it's important that you get that feeling ASAP so you know how it feels. You have to let your brain register it. You have 27 written all over you. That's a very good thing, by the way. I started my first company when I was 25. Over the years, I've noticed that 25 to 35 are the peak years for most men as far as drive and focus. After that, the drive decreases, but is compensated in other ways. But at 27? Whoa, you're a wild Mustang full of vigor. Enjoy that, because it won't last forever. Since I'm so much smarter now, one of my projects is a time machine. Yeah, those late 20s or early 30s are a great time in your life. Thanks for the additional insight, by the way. Your posts are always at the top of my list to read. Hit the nail on the head, Andy. There comes a point where you must put down the books and stop salivating over online forums and the success of others. I'm 3 to 5 books is enough. Browsing the forums for 2 months is enough. It becomes a distraction. All of a sudden your days are spent on books or forums rather than taking action. I believe the best examples on this forum are not regulars, because they get it. Why add one more thing to the daily list when I could be producing for my ventures? I frown every time I see a post asking what WordPress theme should I use, or I don't have a logo yet so I can't make a sale, or I need a website. That's priority number 1. None of this matters. This just shows the op has not yet woken up. If you don't know how to do something, Google it. If you need recommendations, Google it. If you need to learn an industry, Google it. If you need anything, Google it. It's an interesting time we're living in. For those of you considering another course, another book or another podcast before you start, what would you do if you already knew enough? You cannot know what you need to know until you begin on a path to do something. Along the path you discover what you need to learn, and you learn as you go. You cannot know enough, because you cannot anticipate what knowledge is required until the next problem presents itself. Great thread, Andy. Thanks for kicking it off. For what little it's worth, I agree with your position. Research is important, but at some point one must do something to really learn. For instance, I recently started a YouTube channel. First it was watching various types of YouTube channels, then how-to vids, then a YouTube for dummies, then, okay, just start the channel and really learn. That forced me to learn how to use Camtasia and Snagit. Turns out there's was a lot more I could do with my Adobe Photoshop that I wasn't aware of. And each post is, I believe, better than the last one. As human we are experiential, so we need to get out and experience things. Don't know who came up with it, but just-in-time learning is the concept. Learn. Act. Learn. Act. Learn. Act. Agreed. Take action first and learn as you go, that way you know what you need to learn. Sent from ISMA 520W using TaperTalk. I remember an MJ referred to it as act, assess, adjust. I don't think I really grasped what that meant until I started on my idea. This thread got me to thinking. Why are so many people afraid to try? When we were really young we dive right into trying new things. Did school take that out of us? Did an education system that rewards right answers and shames wrong answers make us afraid to try? Does our school system foster a lifetime of being afraid to try? In effect, giving us an excuses for making excuses and not taking action? Yep, it gets strained, beaten out of us. We started by repeatedly getting up every time we fell over, till we eventually could stand and walk. I did a video somewhere of the kids doing some painting. They just got a brush, water, paper, and started painting. They didn't worry what it would turn out like or if anyone would judge or laugh. They didn't think they'd better do a painting course before they darkened the page. They did it for the joy of doing it. Related reading. This thread title initially made me think of the quote, "I don't know what I don't know," but once again, posses a blunt question that immediately makes you stop and question your actions. Really excellent question. I guess a response would be, how do you know when you know enough? First time I heard it was in Tim Ferriss' The 4-Hour Workweek. Just in case learning bad versus just in time learning good. And I would reverse the order, act first, then learn, then act, learn, etc. What if you already knew enough? I'm going to cold email businesses once I've read that book on cold emailing. If you already knew enough you'd be cold emailing businesses. I'm going to create some Google ads after I've got my Google certifications. If you already knew enough you'd just create the ads. When you sit down to write the cold email or create the Google ad you're going to get stuck immediately with some question. Should I cold email from my personal Gmail address? What do all thesis settings for a Google Ads campaign mean? So you answer the question and move on to the next problem step. You take action, encounter a problem, learn what you need to solve it, then move on to the next. Now you're in motion. Now if you picked up a book you'll skim through it and things will resonate and you'll get aha moments, because you've now got a coat hanger of experience to hang the learning from. You don't learn until you launch. Dan Norris, you can't steer a parked car. James Schramm, go pick a direction. Get started. Keep going. I have colleagues who are still studying or taking master degrees or certifications based on their current industry in order to get increment or jump into higher salary. Let me calculate the costs of masters and certifications. MSc in cyber equals $50,000. Certifications, GPN equals $6,000. USCISP equals $4,000 plus trainings in the end. Office slave is always slave. Like MJ said, casino players are always gonna be losers. A job is a job. So then what if you're just 19 and don't know literally anything about business besides what I've read in MJ's books? It seems dumb to just start without knowing anything, or am I just subconsciously using that as an excuse? I have no idea where to start. I'd figure I'd read a bunch of books and study business or entrepreneurship or economics or finance, but you guys are basically saying that's worthless. This is confusing the hell out of me. As Bruce Lee said, boards don't hit back. Sent from my SMG 960U using TaperTalk. Okay, I get it now. This is kinda what everybody else was saying, but it didn't click in my head till you said that. Hitting boards is nothing like getting the experience of actually fighting someone. Reading about business is nothing like actually starting a business. Awesome insight on this, dude. I find myself going down a similar rabbit hole too often. Yeah, they're rabbit holes with trapdoors on top. You often don't see them till you're already descending. Thanks for the rep. It's really not about how many books you read but why you are reading them. That goes for blogs, posts, etc. Example, at some point you'll want to start your own company. While doing that is much easier these days, you need to understand how and what structure to use. That requires some research equals reading. It's also easy to think you've come up with a great idea to solve a need. But again, I recommend some research. Some people find a great concept, like MJ's limo aggregator, which focuses their research to solving specific challenges as they arise. Some of us are still in the hunt for a need to attack, which can lead to more general research in books, online forums, etc. The key is to focus your research on solving your most pressing challenge at that time. Thank you so much for writing this. I was completely unaware that I had fallen into that spiral. I've been reading and learning unconsciously, consuming more and more because I felt I wasn't enough. I've been thinking about your post for 2 days. It's changed my thinking completely and utterly. Thank you. Look in the mirror and say, I am enough. Because I say I am. Think of what you hear from even highly successful people. I've read hundreds of books. I don't watch TV, I read books, etc. 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 Reading and learning is essential. But there is a time when you have an idea to pursue, you just have to do it and learn as you hit barriers versus learn everything about every possible barrier before it's even a barrier. Don't let this confuse you. You got this, man. You are young and you never have more time than you have now. Invest in learning, no doubt about it, and take action on your dreams and you will learn probably more by getting started and doing as well. Yeah man, I'm with this, Andy. If identity is not in alignment with what you are trying to do, your mind will trick you to mentally masturbate some more. I really think that's why some people have to work on removing limited beliefs. Others are just rock stars and lucky, I suppose. I don't think reading is essential. I'm sure there's plenty of successful business owners who can't read, or who have never listened to a podcast or audiobook. I appreciate you continuing the chatter. My view is bigger than just business. For personal development as a human, reading is essential. But you make a point that I think can be valid. This is a brilliant discussion. Thanks. It's interesting to come across it now. I've been listening to an audiobook called How I Made My First Million, and the thing that is clear from almost all of the 16 millionaire entrepreneurs that contributed is they just got started. No over-analysis, no VC investment, and very little in the way of business plans. They just started helping people get what they wanted, and scaled it. You and they have taught me loads. How I have missed these posts due to my own absence. This is something that I can get lost in myself, so a wonderful and great reminder. Thank you for writing out all of this. Another line to think about: you can't invoice for input. Blaise Brosnan. Your story reminds me of one of my favorite quotes. It took me 4 years to paint like Raphael, but a lifetime to paint like a child. Pablo Picasso. This might be what I needed to hear right at the right time. Thank you for this thread. I think it's a common problem where people over-research and under-deliver. I believe it ties into a quest for a shortcut on how to make money, when in reality people just need to get started. The over-researching leads to self-doubt, which leads to procrastination, which leads to the business failing or never launching. Now, there's an overabundance of action fakers online these days. But in a few months' time they tend to disappear, or move on to their next big idea. At the end of the day, it all comes down to fixing your habits. I think it's less to do with chasing money and more to do with not knowing where to start, and more importantly that school and society have trained us to seek a book or course if we want to learn instead of the launch and learn mindset a business owner needs. I have always been against the way our school system teaches. I believe it creates more of an employee mindset. Agreed. School is there to create workers in the factories. It's refreshing that many are starting to wake up to this fact. I think school is for people who want to become certain professions, doctors, lawyers, etc. I agree, schools are there to create good employees and consumers. The problem is that the system is broken. Today's teachers are good employees and consumers. It's all they really know because teaching is a profession. Very few teachers these days have ever been outside of the system. It's a vicious circle. We as parents, friends and mentors need to take responsibility and educate our young about how to escape the system. There is a positive thing about that, IMO. It leaves you with less competition if you are willing to break out of the system. Bump. I agree that the school system may corrupt aspiring entrepreneurs. I remember when I was a rebel in high school, I convinced this lady to let me perform with my rock band at her daughter's Sweet 16 party. The problem was that I had no members for my band, no instruments, had not practiced any songs, and I had 1 month to prepare until the party. I had still not developed the analytical mind I earned in college, so my mind did not register the difficulties for this project. But I think because I did not doubt myself and had no analysis paralysis, I was able to conquer that feat and get all those things done. After college, I graduated with a diploma, analysis paralysis, the addiction to endless learning, and a master's in action faking. This has severely slowed down my entrepreneurship journey. And even though I was reading and listening to a lot of audio books, no progress was visible. Having removed my plan Bs, I was desperate for a change. So I made a commitment today to not read or listen to another audiobook until I actually need it. Luckily, today I saw this post and it further confirmed my actions. I thank everyone that posted in this thread. I have learned a lot from you. I hope soon I will be able to contribute valuable insights to this forum as well. Listening too much will make you say things that have already been said, and do things that have already been done, and become a hollow shell, reverberating an average tone of someone else's sound. Consuming is the opposite of producing, and being in the stands is an awful way to become a star up on stage. Copywriters admit that they steal ideas from other copywriters. This is well known. Nothing new under the sky. You can't start from scratch, from the Big Bang 15 billion years ago. Eben Pagan calls it standing on the shoulders of giants. I've been trying really hard to just execute lately. It's amazing how I have been executing and how much time I've been wasting. Research is one of my guilty pleasures. It feels productive, but it's just mental masturbation. I spoke with Andy about a week ago. He asked me to post here. This thread came to me at a good time. I realized that I was action faking when I wanted to continue learning more and more about business, cursed my academic background. This thread helped me see that I do not need to continue learning, but simply help someone. Use resources as needed when you need help to overcome problems that arise from helping somebody else. There is no point to a business if it is not solving a real problem. There is no point for me to learn more about business, for example marketing strategies, finding needs, whatever when I am in business to solve problems and get paid to do so. What have I done so far? In the past few months, just read nothing but business books. They were great for knowledge, but knowledge without application is mental masturbation. However, with this thread, it clicked that I needed to apply my knowledge. What has happened in the past week? Currently in the process of finding businesses interested in getting chiropractic care for their employees. I am the business manager for this business. Our marketing processes: 1. Providing charity care and helping advance non-profit organizations, and 2. Crafting and tailoring personalized scripts from a perspective of we genuinely want to help care for employees and help them be more productive so your company gets more productive to help it succeed, for cold calls or emails to prospective businesses via LinkedIn and networking organization sites. We plan to go to businesses in person and simply ask them if they can help us learn more about them and their employees, just a chat to get to know one another. Similarly, we are looking up events and see if we can do a mini health fair of sorts. Regardless, our intention is to help people. That is our number one priority. Money is secondary. Cash flow might be the lifeline of a business, but without customers, then there is no cash flow. None of this was happening about a week ago until this thread kicked my gluteus maximus into gear. Nothing will surely happen if I did nothing. However, at least now, with 4 channels to reach prospective clients and build ourselves into expert in this particular niche, the probability of us landing the elusive first business client is more than 0%. That's all we need. Plenty of people have expressed interest, but our target audience is businesses. Let's see what happens. I am also a nurse who is working a seasonal work where I work if I am needed to work. Income is non-existent as the business is getting started. Oh well, I already know enough. I am a business person first and foremost. I find opportunities among problems. I looked up job posts and found several positions screaming I need a nurse help. I sent in a resume tailored to needs, had a person reach out to me on the same day, and approached the interview from the angle I want to help. That is all I want to do. Help. Guess what? I got myself a good paying side gig where I only need to work 30 hours or less monthly to make more than someone working a minimum wage job for 40 hours a week 4 weeks of the month. This all happened in a week. Perfection was my enemy. I wanted to have the knowledge, but without the experience to apply it and actually get results. If you gain nothing else from this forum, this thread, this post, then let it be this: just ask yourself, how can I help target audience? How can I help the local stores make more money? How can I help the crying child on the street? How can I help this self-employed owner find more clients? How can I make life better for people working as massage therapists, construction workers, dentists, doctors, etc.? Just help. I keep coming back to this thread. It helped push me towards one major avenue of action last month, and yet another yesterday. The way I see it, book readers and resource consumers are motivated. They know what they want, but they want to. They also want it easy, so they get stuck building the foundation before the castle. I know I did. They want to work towards their goal but have no room for error. If they do leave error and it doesn't take off, they will have to sit and stew in their corporate cesspit for 5 to 6 months while their business ramps up. Why do this when you can just read 1 or 2 or 3 magical books and wind up in a Lambo cruising down Main Street tomorrow? It's a question of risk acceptance and risk mitigation. Unfortunately, acceptance is the only truly fast lane path. I kept cutting my teeth on this dilemma because I let myself get rehired back into wage slavery, and I spent 3 months reading to find a magic pill that could let me loose. I haven't given up on the thought of living out of the trunk of my SUV, but in the meantime I'm going to keep charging down the path I just opened up for myself, saving capital via slow lane and keeping eyes out for that exit. Oops. Guilty. Thanks for the reality check. I know it's an old thread, but these quotes are gold. I feel that a lot of the newcomers to this forum can benefit a lot from what has been mentioned here. At the time I read this, I had accumulated around 30 tabs at the top of my Chrome browser with threads that I was planning to read next. I try to consume everything in one go instead of breaking things down into chunks to make them easier to digest. I was also wondering how on earth finds the time to provide as much value to the forum as he does. The reality? I'll be reading 30 threads, he'll be implementing work. I needed this today. It's time for me to start getting SHT done. Thanks, Andy. Andy, the way you write and get across ideas is amazing. It's inspirational. I always get pulled in when reading. I wasn't a great student and only reluctantly went to college at 16, but I feel like after engaging with too much of the ClickFunnels community I started to consume and research too much. After stopping letting those take up my free time, I soon felt better about myself. Before I found FLF I was actually the opposite of what you mention at the start here. I thought I was an incredible Facebook expert who could do anything. Then I joined FLF thanks to a Reddit suggestion and saw that I don't have all the answers and do have more to learn. Or at least, even if in practice I knew what to do, I'm not able to communicate these ideas effectively prior to experience with them. Talking to people with business is totally different to ones I've ran. I've realized I don't have all the Facebook marketing solutions yet. I actually referred another Redditor here as I couldn't answer his social media marketing question, and it's only the part of his business that he's really struggling with. I want to help him so bad but I just haven't been able to. One thing I like about FLF is that there are so many people willing to help. Thanks for reading, replying, and your kind words. You don't need them all. You just need enough to help someone. Business is simple, help people, get paid. Now then. Maybe this call might help you. Thanks, Andy. How does this contrast with just-in-time learning? What if what you are working on is best not learned on the job or as it comes up, and preparation is necessary for better execution or production? I love just-in-time learning. I try to focus on the hurdle in front of me and not the one way beyond, and that's what just-in-time learning is about, though I'll say again that I've nothing against learning per se. I'm just aware that it can be a slippery slope as well as an action fake. The lines that keep me in check are, you can't invoice for input. Blaise Brosnan, overthinking is the art of solving problems you don't have. But don't you need to learn quite a bit in advance to show you can solve the potential client's problem before they start paying you? For example, those people I said I wasn't sure how I was able to help, had I been a call, even just saying honestly I'm not sure how to do that, but I'm a quick learner and will figure a way isn't going to inspire much confidence and lead to a sale surely. People want to hire problem solvers. Sure, they would prefer to hire someone with a track record of solving the problem they believe they have. But if you've solved similar problems then that's often enough. Hey Andy, can you help me run the Google ads for my shepherd business? I've only run ads for blacksmiths. I don't know if will work exactly the same. At a guess I'd try A, B, and C. I think we'd know in a month or two if it's going to work. Do you want to test it? Sure. Let's try that process and see where we end up in a month. I have a process and people buy that. That's a great way of putting it. I think the process is what I'm still figuring out. I need it to be broader than my existing one when working for myself to apply to more businesses more effectively. Just apply your current process to one business. Your process will evolve the more times you apply it. Fantastic post, thank you. I'm often stuck with this in my mind and have a great example of it. Maybe it can help anyone here. I always feel very much annoyed with myself when I notice I think a lot beforehand and then take action on the background before getting out there. Gotta get it out my system. Now the example is the following. I'm seen as an expert in my industry, gaming and esports, which makes things easier and more difficult. Working with great brands approaching me and being in media, often having interviews for example. But it also makes people ask me stuff which can distract me. Now, since 2016 I give workshops and presentations for parents with gaming children. It is my biggest why due to personal experience. For the past year I've been thinking about scaling this online, as workshops and presentations aren't as you can imagine. For over a year I've been creating some products, got a logo up. For a name I thought of the models and things to teach in modules, didn't yet produce that yet, and gave a company the task to develop a new platform instead of using Kajabi or something similar to start with. In other words, I now realize I could have been out there already using things that are there. I could have helped parents already through online courses and forms of support, which in return would generate income to eventually fund the platform I'm creating. You can guess the issue here is that in such a situation, also income can sometimes be a struggle. Looking back is always easier. P.S. I read and in the past 1.5 month. At the same time, happy to say that in about 1 month it will go live. But I could have taken another approach the past year and already be out there for 11 months, let's say. This is a great lesson I've learned and something I struggle with regularly. I hope many of you won't fall for the same trap. I think it's perfectly fine to create a platform, work hard behind the scenes to create something long-term. But it doesn't have to be perfect. Which is another weakness I have. Go out there and be active in the field, test along the way and create along the way as well. It is easy writing it here, but in practice not as much sometimes. As far as focus goes, MJ talks about focusing on one thing, build it, and whenever wealth comes your way you can have fun with multiple companies and such. They didn't start that way. The shiny object syndrome is something many experience. The past year I worked with companies like Vodafone, Kia Motors and Spin-In Records to help them enter the gaming and esports domain. Great source of income to fund my parents' project and such. I've been thinking about building another online course for this target audience. Basically, going from one-to-one also to one-to-many, with one-on-one still being an option, just being able to help more people. It's been only in my thoughts, I didn't really took that much action yet. I'm thinking about doing it the other way around compared with the parents' project I do. Create a presentation, make a video or webinar, get on the phone with leads and test the market for interest. If someone registers, develop the content along the way and see where it goes. Action greater than thinking. However, I realize it takes me off route from the parents' stuff, which makes me feel in doubt. On the other hand, I still do things with schools, municipalities, or companies regularly to have some extra income. This is one-on-one work, meaning a course would be more beneficial time-wise and ability to help more people at the same time. Do it, or not do it. Would be interested in hearing from any of you about similar situations and what you learned from it. It's another interesting decision with a learning curve right behind it. Wouldn't take too much crazy effort building the course, as the steps I take with parents and businesses is stuff I already know. Just put it together and improve it over time. Hope some bits were at least useful. Get out there. TLDR. Get to the forefront and learn and develop stuff along the way on the background. Don't let yourself be distracted by others asking things of you. It doesn't have to be perfect. Being out there is more important. Would you have business A and then start business B while still building A? It's the same industry, just another target audience. Wow, I think you couldn't be more clear. In the last time I've been quite obsessed with gaining more knowledge about business, but the only thing I got from it is feeling like I'm not good enough and is really frustrating. Last summer I went door to door offering to restaurants a special variety of tomatoes I grew. I designed and built a nice cardboard box, emphasized they were organic and started selling them. I didn't succeed as the demand was too little in my town, but I'm proud I put myself into real world and took action. That made me realize I'm ready to start something. The only challenge ahead is getting rid of the negative self-talk which makes me think I need more content. On point. Massive cognitive dissonance. Wow. Once again with the knowledge bombs. Couldn't agree more with this post, and this is coming from someone who reads 6 books 2 to 3 times each in a matter of 6 months. In the interest of not sounding like a hypocrite, I do credit those 6 books for creating an essential paradigm shift in my way of thinking. Reading is such a passive, no action-oriented task that it bleeds non-productivity to me. This is why, to this day, I cannot sit with a physical book in my hand and read it. Not when the minutes, hours and days are putting me one step closer to the grave. However, when I was a broke single mom tethered to that cold dead cubicle, I utilized audiobooks to pump life into my 8-hour shift during periods of down. This in turn shifted my thinking from let me suffer through this to let me get the heck out of here. Lol, in this day and age, I would even say creating a website is not even the first thing you need to do anymore when you start down the path of entrepreneurship. Not when most everyone skips your website to find your social media page. Prior to my paradigm shift, I created a Facebook page for a niche group, shared nothing but memes about how tragic the life of a single parent is, and started gaining hundreds of followers. I honestly didn't even understand what was happening until I began seeing the world through the eyes of the mentors, both dead and alive, who had shown me the path through those few books I read. Now I understand why I gained those hundreds of followers is because I wasn't trying to sell them something they didn't need. I was relating to them and the pain they faced on a daily regular basis by sharing my own vulnerabilities as a single parent. So, at the end of the day, put the book down and get out there. I promise anyone they are an expert at something or many somethings and don't even need a book to tell or show them that. Thanks for sharing. I've read this post for the first time, but very well said. Thank you, even though it's almost 2 years later. So many of these quotes hit close to home for me. I've always been a thinker, but I believe my focus on school to get me from the sidewalk to the slow lane severely impacted my thought processes and instincts. I find myself often overthinking and looking for books or content to teach me the secret sauce rather than just trying something. This paralysis is mentally draining and leads to lost confidence and continued inactivity. It really is a vicious cycle. Thanks for the reminders, Andy, as well as the rest of you. Today I made a conscious decision to move forward with an idea and take action for the first time since I started a clothing brand in high school. Time will tell if I'm successful or not, but your production of this content contributed positively to my dream and I thank you for that.